As we begin to look at WW1, World War I, if you've had U.S. history, you have seen these in different forms. If you've not, this is going to be new. Either way, it's an important review or an important concept to understand before we move on with World War I. As we start plunging more toward World War I, we talked about different wars. We talked about Russia's powers. We're starting to have an unstable situation. So you need to get down some notes about these that I'm going to go through, and I'm going to give you a series of images that you're going to need to match up with each cause. Okay, and the acronym being MAIN. Okay, so MAIN, militarism being first. Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism. Militarism, the great powers of Europe had built up their armed forces, gave them more authority in the late 1800s, early 1900s. All of the great powers except large standing armies, okay? And generals had detailed plans for mobilization, and this increased suspicions and made the likelihood of war more likely. There was a naval rivalry between Germany and Britain to protect their overseas empire. I think I mentioned before, they had the world's largest navy. Okay, so all this militarism was going on. In fact, to demonstrate this point, look at here. Look at all of the troops that each of the big powers were building. Britain didn't have a very big one yet. They had an all-volunteer army, but look at all these other troops. But look at the Navy battleships that Britain had. Look at the Navy subs that Britain had. So Britain was getting there. And remember, after the war, Britain instituted a draft. So I don't know why everything just went down on me, but that's an important point to understand. So let's keep moving here with moving into now moving into alliances. An alliance, so there's two different alliances. Many nations throughout Europe were connected to increase each other's security. Okay, I'm going to put up another one here that's going to give you a different slide that's going to give you a little different perspective. There was two different alliances. Bismarck had built an alliance with Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy in the wake of the Franco-Prussian War against France, and then in response, France builds up an entente, which is not quite an alliance and not as formal as a treaty, but it's a promise to defend each other, and a non-binding agreement to follow certain common policies. That's technically what an entente is. And then Russia joins Britain later on. When the war begins, these powers become known as the Allies. So let me get over here and let me look at over here. Let me put this up and change the display settings. So the alliance, again, some of these countries are neutral, but the alliances are agreements to promise to defend and help another country. The Triple Entente, the Triple Alliance, started by Bismarck, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. Triple Entente, Britain, France, and Russia. These will later become known as the Central Powers, and these will become known as the Central Powers here, and then the Allied Powers here as we go along here in World War I. So now I need to hit escape and move back down and start talking about imperialism. So the European powers are on mission. We've talked about this. Land equals power. They are on a mission to capture different trying to build an empire. So the intense pride in imperialism is also very important in terms of claiming uncolonized and building up an empire. As we've talked about, this related to this is nationalism, strong pride in one's country, wanting to be the best, and having pride in your country, and then being willing to defend it, wanting to be the best, and being willing to defend it. Right? Okay. So there's an intense competition among nations. So this pride is starts to build up with imperialism. So remember, we talked a lot about the nationalities and how these nationalities wanted to be free from outside rule. You know, the Greeks, the Croats, the Serbs in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Hungarians, the Romanians, all these wanting to be free from their various empires, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire. We talked about how you've talked about before, especially the freshmen have talked about before, how the alliances, or excuse me, the nationalities were starting to break apart, and this is an important point to make. Okay, so then as we start, the spark, we'll get into this, was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. We'll get into that in subsequent lessons. Second piece of this, once you get those down, if you didn't get those, then go ahead and stop. And once you have definitions, is you need to match up these particular slides, these slides about the main causes, to the images to the causes. Some of them may have more than one. Some of them may have more than one image that connects to it. So let's just use the image number 1, for example. You can see here, this is the British Empire, right? The British Empire, that, remember, we said the sun never sets in the British Empire. So which one would this, I'm just going to pull this over from another screen here. Which one would this would probably be demonstrating imperialism, right? Image 1 fits imperialism. So imperialism, if my thing would scroll, or not scroll too much. Image 1. This would obviously be after you put your definition, so I'll move it down a little bit. Demonstrates imperialism because image 1 fits this because it displays the reach of the British Empire around the world, and that part of their quest for extreme power. So I'll make that maybe a little smaller, and then a color other than black, right? So you've got, there are several images that you might be able to fit into multiple spots, but some of them may only fit into one image. The different images fit into multiple spots depending on your perspective. Like the guy, image 2 fits because it represents British colonize all of bringing under its rule. So some of these may fit under more than one. You can justify them under more than one, but they may have one spot where they fit most primarily. This clearly is, I'm talking about a military buildup. This is clearly demonstrating what? Nationalism, right? You need to match them up with images and provide justification like I just provided here. The last slide that you need to do is look at another attachment here with the text. If the text comes up with different describing these different causes, but it also describes these different causes in detail. But it also talks about the web of alliances, and that's the section you need to read as you're talking about the web of alliances and how did this create World War I. So this little small piece, excuse me, down here under, it looks like page 3 of the attachment talking about the web of alliances. The other piece is I've really kind of given you in the notes, so you can use if you hadn't listened to my notes already, you don't need this just yet if you've already listened to my notes, depending on how you want to approach it. Now, the other thing is look for a picture of the web of alliances and explain it. So you can literally find anything in the web that relates to World War I web of alliances, and you'll probably find something to put in there. Okay, so I think that covers these two particular slides and their explanation. Remember, the idea is the main causes. I can't emphasize that enough. The main causes of World War I: militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, leading to the Triple Entente, leading to the Triple Entente, but then the Triple Alliance, that the Triple Alliance will later be known as the Central Powers, and the Triple Entente will later be known as the Allied Powers as they start to emerge. And World War I starts in 1914.